Hey y'all.
Hey.
Hey from Love and Flow TV. This is October and we are officially deep into the fall.
Yes.
So we are by the fireside this evening for our fireside chat. My name is Kimberly Winborn. Welcome to another episode of Love and Flow TV. And I want to introduce my hosts. Well, actually, they can introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Let's start with Kenya.
Hey everybody, my name is Kenya Thompson. I am owner and founder of Word Crumbs, where we specialize in conversations, making it right, understanding your voice and your brand.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Dion Selby. I am a certified life coach in the Raleigh area. I specialize in financial literacy and also community events and personal wellness. So, good evening, everybody.
Hey, it's weather.
Weather.
It's weather. So we got our weather. Say, hey guys, I'm your co-host Kimberly McGee, and I am coined the dancing planner. I have a management firm that we can manage everything, and then we can also dance you to wait for fitness and get in shape. So
Yes.
we got it covered.
dope, ladies. And back at me, I am the founder of Kimberly Winborn LLC, as well as a nonprofit called Beauty 180. I'm a certified financial education instructor and business consultant, and I love helping people to get connected to the right resource and then create amazing collaborations so that they can win, because that's what we're born to do. So tonight we are going to talk about a whole lot. You see, we got our sweaters. We're ready for the fall.
We got the fire going.
Got the fire going.
We have our
hot toddies. Hot toddies. And then we also have our cozy blankets. So we want to ask you to do the same. Get your cozy blanket, fuzzy socks, get your hot toddy.
Get comfortable.
Whatever it is that you need to get comfortable on this Saturday night, to get cozy with us and join in on the conversation. Make sure to share. Right now, tag some folks, share, and join in on the conversation. You can shout out where you are. We love to be able to shout out your city, your state. So if you're in the comments, go ahead and shout out who you are, and then go ahead and share to your pages. Kimberly McGee is our resident prayer warrior. And so we start the show in prayer every month, every time we have an episode, rather.
Yes.
So Kimberly?
Yeah. Well, we're just going to thank God to be in this space, like outside under the stars, right? To just taking
I
this
love
energy,
it.
right?
And
Under the
we're
stars.
connecting with nature.
Nature, yeah. So
Connecting
we're
with
just
nature.
gonna thank God for allowing us to be healthy and whole in our minds, and we just thank God for all the opportunities such as this that we can bring forth our voices and our talents and our gifts. And God, we put you first and foremost in all that we do. We give you all the praise and all the glory and all the honor. And we ask that you also bless this country, bless the circumstances that are going on in Haiti and throughout the world, Lord God, and we just continue to ask for your healing and your guidance in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I love that. Start with gratitude. I love that.
Just being under the stars is it's
just
amazing.
grateful.
It's
grateful.
Just a grateful moment, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Such a grateful moment.
We have a lot to cover.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for that, because every time we get together, y'all, we have to stay on task because of all the things that are going on, as well as all the conversations that we miss because we've been so busy. So this is a great time to also get together and get caught up. So I'm really excited about that. So let's, as I always say, let's dive on in.
Yes, dive on in.
Let's dive on in. So one of the things that we are going to talk about, well, the theme of the show, actually, Kimberly and I were having one of our sessions. Where so each of us has our different little conversations with each other.
Side conversation.
Right.
It's like a different connection.
It's a different kind of connection. So there's Dion and Kimberly that have their deep connection. There's Kimberly and I that have our deep connection. Then there's Dion and I that have ours. And then King and I, and so forth and so on, right? And so in our conversation, Kimberly and I, we were talking about themes for the show. And Kimberly said, what's our theme for tonight?
Our theme is what I wish I knew.
Absolutely.
What I wish I knew.
Absolutely. Because we were talking about how there's so much
change, age,
all of that we
lessons
wish that
learned,
we knew.
awakenings.
Were you going through your birthday at the time?
I think so. And I was
it was around your birthday time.
Talking about around my birthday and just talking about body changes, just different things and things that our generation are more open to talking about. This generation, our generation, I don't know. I think we have a few different generations up here. But anyway, two.
We got two generations.
We got two different generations.
No, three
because I would say we're
three generations. You two
well
are in
because
one generation.
we're
You're
what
one by yourself.
millennials, right?
You guys are.
Okay, so
I'm a year off. But anyway, we'll jump off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so we got a couple generations.
I'm in the old generation.
But we were just having conversations about body changes and different things that our parents, our mom, our dad, mindset, because I was saying, I'm 40 plus, I'm over 40 now. And I remember looking back at my mom and people around me in their 40s, 30s even, and they seem so poised and so together and feeling like, well, I don't 100% feel like I have everything
like,
together.
why I feel like I'm just all
Right.
all over the place.
Right. So there's that. And so realizing when you have conversations with your parents that they really didn't. And so having those open conversations are so crucial. So that's one
But
of
it didn't mean that those things didn't exist.
Right.
Right.
It just
Absolutely.
It just
wasn't
wasn't
talked
talked about. Right.
Absolutely. And so now that's what we want to talk about. Those things that we wish
And
that
we just want
knew.
to quick shout out. We got Atlanta in here. We got Durham in here. We got Raleigh in here.
Yay!
So shout out to
we
everybody.
got some representation around
yeah, we
our
got some. We got
hoods.
some representation up in here today. So thank you
That's
guys
what's up.
for
Thank y'all for
joining us and
for
getting
your
in on the
support.
conversation. What you
wish
wish
you
you
knew. Right.
like? What
Yes.
do you wish you knew?
Yeah.
Please
Like,
let
So
us
as
know.
we were talking about
Tell us what you wish you knew too.
parenting,
Right.
so you can, if you're not a parent, you can also share some of the things that
Your parents,
perspective that your parent passed down that you were kind of questionable about, right?
Right.
And how it shaped you and molded you.
Absolutely.
And so that's one of the things we're talking about, because all of us have children.
Yeah.
And all of us have learned a different way
Of parenting.
Not saying we totally gone away from what we were taught, but we have
Right.
taken a different approach
Yeah, to parenting.
some things with
Yeah.
parenting. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I would say definitely we're, in this in this day and time, just because things are just different. You know what I mean? Like you can't respond to certain things the way that maybe our parents
Exactly.
did.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
like communication wise or discipline wise.
Exactly.
Just different things like that. We just can't respond. We can't respond with whoopings and being smacked in the face
Yeah.
and
Oh, God.
getting hit with a belt and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff
Yeah.
anymore.
They
We
gonna
have to
call.
really
They're going to call somebody on
they're
us.
gonna call somebody on
Yeah.
us, and they know it. The
Yeah.
kids will say, "Oh, well, that's not okay," because I
Yeah.
can just say that this is abuse.
That's
Well,
when you slap
well,
them harder.
Know what I wish I'd have known then, and I think that there were times then your teenagers can push you, because
Yeah.
I've raised 2 teenagers, and it was not easy. But they were in comparison to some other teenagers. I think I scathed a lot of hard times.
Yeah,
But I think what I wish I'd have known was how to handle my teenagers a little bit better in terms of disciplining them and
Right.
correcting them,
Right.
and not being so critical, because my grandmother, them, I remember, like, if I gained 10 pounds, she'd be like, "Girl, you getting big."
Right.
You get around, you just,
Yes, and
those
that stuff
things
is
are body
sensitive.
image, and
Yeah.
I was at a sensitive moment in my life, and you guys now are having preteens and teenagers
Yeah,
where their
yeah.
bodies are changing
Yeah.
and they're becoming
Yeah.
more into their selves. And I remember just feeling so awkward about myself during that time. So.
Same with me. I would say the same with parenting. Just being able to be more supportive.
Yeah.
And being more open to listening to their feelings, and just really being able to have those softer moments. Because I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of pushed through those moments. You know, I didn't really feel that supportive or that open to just really talk about my feelings or the
That's
the
good.
actual struggles.
That's good.
So definitely for me, that's what some of the things that I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think your dad said go easy on them, by the way.
Because he know I be keeping it real. He know I be keeping it real. I love you, Dad, though.
Somebody
you know
said,
I love you.
I wish I knew my knees would stop working after 30. And
That's
so
my
when-
cousin. That's my cousin.
Hey,
Yeah.
Your sister said, I wish I knew about investment. We're
Yeah.
going to talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Faith, everybody loves the
Financial
ambiance.
literacy. Yeah.
Financial
Yeah.
literacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of
Yeah.
the things that I, thinking about what you just said, Dion, the conversation, like I do remember, and my mom and I have a very open conversation now. Like we can talk about so many things, but then that generation did that age of parenting did kind of shut you down when you try to express yourself.
You better
and
not say anything.
You didn't
As
feel.
a
I didn't feel
that
like
was
I
like
was
that was just talking
talking
back,
back,
girl.
right?
That was just
Talking
And I
talking
was
back.
a curious person, so that's what I used to get
Right.
whooped for and chastised for, because I would say why, and I didn't know I was being disrespectful. I really just wanted to
know-
understand.
right.
And as I've gotten old, I remember feeling like, wow, well, I'm not gonna ask why at school, or I'm not gonna ask questions in certain other scenarios because that might get me in trouble.
Yeah.
And so one of the things with Sophie, I allow her to tell me, like, let's just be open, let's talk about it, this is our moment. And the whys, unless it's disrespectful, please ask me, I can explain that.
Yeah, I just want to respond to that real quickly too, because what I have had a hard time explaining to Nina, though, in times of being more open, of listening to her and hearing more of her explanation of her feelings and her opinions, is that still at the end of the day, I'm going to listen and I hear and I understand, but sometimes it's still going to be a no.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, she still has to understand that even after I've heard her and I've listened to her feelings and I've listened to her explanation,
Right.
sometimes it's still, I'm still not going to sway your way.
Well, Kenya, you're raising a son different than me raising a son 20 years ago, because Keto's 25 now. So that's been 20 years. And I think raising a son now in terms of how to communicate, do you find it difficult, or what's his perspective as a young man really dealing with, does he feel okay to voice his thoughts and his
Yeah, for the most part he does. He's a very introspective person, and he's a very emotionally intuitive person.
Gotcha.
So, and he I think he's a sensory person, so he takes on other
so like an
people's-
empath.
Yes, thank you, that's the word I was looking for, an empath. And so a lot of times I can tell when he is in his head a lot. So I'll just, the worst thing to ask him is what's wrong, because he's gonna say nothing. Right. So I'll say, you know, what's on your mind, or what's going on, or, you know, tell me, like, what was the best part of your day today, what was the worst part of your day today, and that'll open him up. But, you know, with race being a huge issue as of late, there are conversations that are really difficult, and experiences that he's had that have been extremely difficult to now have to open this world up to him earlier than I would have liked to.
Yes.
To kind of go back, though, one thing about parenting that I wish I had known, and I think this feeds into this question, is not to have an expectation of who your child should be.
Yeah,
That's good. That's
not
good.
And just kind of allowing them
That's
to
good.
Just allow them to
That's
be
really, really
I
good.
think we enter parenting with this idea of how we will parent, but
Yeah.
our kids really teach us how
Yeah,
to
they
parent.
Absolutely.
do. And,
Yeah.
and if you
Absolutely.
allow them the area and the space, they will show you who they are.
And explore. They'll get an opportunity
They
to
will.
explore.
I'd
One
like
of
to ask our audience, how many of you all actually also dealt with parents telling you to, like, if you asked the question, you were going to get spanked, or you were told you
Kinda
were shut down.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, don't ask me that question. You being nosy, or, you know, you know, you being gross. So how many of,
I said so.
oh, because I said so, and no,
Right.
and no
Right.
follow up.
Right.
And you know, we
always
have
my
a dad.
rough one.
My father was very much a communicator, but he was still old school in that way. So he talked to us, but then there was sometimes he just shut you down.
Right. And there's so many things that kids need to talk about.
Right.
It's a lot of stuff going on at school.
Yeah.
This month is anti-bullying
Oh my
awareness
God.
month. So for
Yeah.
those of you who didn't know, break out your orange. I believe it's orange and blue,
Blue,
and or
yeah.
blue. It goes back
Yeah.
and forth.
Mhm.
But anyway, so it's anti-bullying awareness month, and I am really, my daughter came home the other day and was like, "Mom, I'm really excited. My school is highlighting anti-bullying
Yeah.
awareness
I
month."
love that.
And she
Wow,
was
you know
really,
what? And I actually didn't know. I don't think I knew it was actually a color or a theme behind it. So I'm definitely going to become a part of that movement and post something in awareness, because I don't know if you guys all saw the post.
Yeah.
But I had a moment, you know, as a parent, where I had to post and share that, you know, Nina went through some bullying, and this isn't the first time that she's actually had some bullying with some of the girls at her school, you know, just mean girls and stuff like that. But she had some bullying with one of the girls at her bus stop, where she intentionally tried to provoke a fight
Yeah.
with her.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a big deal. You know, we talked to the administrators in the school and got involved, and we had a lot of support from her dad and all of that. But it just really concerns me at the way that we resolve conflict, and then also just the things that kids are doing for attention.
Right.
Because I really think that a lot of it had to do with this whole trend, and you guys can let us know as well if you're having any of these, you know, situations with your kids, or how you would deal with it, because I know,
Yeah.
just like other parents, I wanted to have a conversation with that kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
really
and their
wanted to
parent, 'cause
provoke the kid.
remember,
I mean, I
was
really
like,
wanted to
where
confront
is their
the kid.
parent?
Yeah.
Where is the mom and dad?
I
in
mean,
this?
it took a lot for me to stay calm
Yeah.
and to stay in control, because I really wanted to get way more involved with the child and the child's parent.
Yeah.
I really
Absolutely.
did.
Yeah.
And
I
I think it's since the beginning of time, though, and it's going to continue on. Unfortunately, that's one of those things. But the more we talk to our kids about things that are going on, get other kids in programs who are bullying and things like that, then it hopefully will get better. But
because most bullies are hurting themselves, and
Yeah.
I think that when we teach our children about that, like, how to understand the conflict resolution, but you all have an issue that I didn't deal with, and that was cyberbullying.
Yeah.
Like my
Yes.
kids,
Yeah.
my kids
so
didn't
much
have
going
that.
on for
by the time
attention
they
for
were in
social
middle
media.
school and high school, all they had was what was that, the Vine and MySpace, and that was it.
Yeah.
They didn't even get into
Right.
Facebook until, like, Keto was in the end of his middle school year into high school,
Right.
and it was wasn't his thing, and so now they didn't have the platforms that
Can't
your
escape it
kids
now.
have.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that when we were talking about bullying, and I thought, how do you handle cyberbullying? Like,
Right.
people like berating your kids and
Mm-hmm.
sending them threats
Well, I
through
think-
social media. Like,
Yeah.
that's a different whole kind of bullying that I
Yeah.
didn't experience.
But I think
think
all
the
of
main
these
thing- go
things,
ahead.
all of these things, though, like it's going to take watching them, staying on top of
Top of
stuff,
them, yeah.
monitoring their social media access to the internet and all of that.
And
but
having
then
conversations.
having
Conversations,
conversations. I
yeah.
mean, like,
And a
one of the
tight
things,
relationship with your kids.
one of the
Yeah.
resources is stopbullying.gov. Kimberly, I believe you found
Yes,
that website too.
yeah.
So that's a resource. One of the other things that we wish that we knew as kids, that we wish we would have had more conversations about, was sex education.
Yeah.
And so what is that good age? Like, have you started talking?
Already,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so my daughter's 9 now and Caleb's 11. It's probably been a good, for Ellie, 4 years, and Caleb
Yeah.
since he was like
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
And he just really wanted to know what sex was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
So I didn't feel like I would do him any justice by giving him this cookie cutter, sugar coated
Right.
response.
Exactly.
And I just,
Yeah.
I didn't tell him
Yeah.
in a really graphic
Right.
way.
Yeah.
But I told him as I could as a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And then that opened the door for subsequent conversations.
Well, what
as
do you
he's-
actually say, you guys? Because I haven't had that conversation yet with Nina.
Mhm.
Like,
Well,
she's 12. She just turned
yeah.
13. So I mean,
Well, for
I
me-
know that she knows
yeah.
the word,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
I am prepared to
Yeah.
have the conversation with her now.
Mhm.
But I don't really know what.
Well,
what you
I've
would
had
say.
extensive conversations with Keto and Jasmine, but it was in pockets.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
one conversation I had to have with Jasmine very early, and it did end up because of bullying, was understanding about her body and her body shape,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
and her being picked on because I'm biracial. My children are black,
Right.
Mhm.
but when her friends or her classmates saw me, they would say, they would berate her, call her all kinds of names that they called me when I was mixed. And I had to tell Jasmine, you're not mixed. Like, you're not biracial. You are black. You're black. Your mother is biracial. But it started with her body image. And then I had to really talk to her about her body image and her looking more older than she was,
Okay.
and her developing
Yeah.
earlier than she
Right,
was,
yeah.
and why that was, and her being embarrassed
Right.
about certain body parts
Puberty.
growing and puberty and developing. And so then it was a time for me to have that conversation with her about what is a good touch, what is a bad touch, be okay to be vocal about that. And then for my son, it was really about him touching himself, to be honest, and him, like, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, him touching himself.
Is he
and
gonna be mad at you?
No,
Okay.
they know their mama.
I'm
So used to their mama, they be like, "Oh Lord, here she goes." We have to. So I had to tell him, like, because he was spending too much
like,
time in the shower.
Yeah, too
And
funny.
Jasmine was like, "He's in there. The water's cold." And we had to explain to her he's going through a little something. And she
Right.
thought he had a disease.
Oh, Lord.
She was like, "What's wrrong with my brother?" And
But
we just
what
had
did
to
you
have these
say when you got
conversations.
to the sex part?
Well, the sex part was in. There were levels.
Okay.
So I didn't give it to them all at one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then it was
okay.
like when she got to like 15 and 16, and then
Okay.
you know when she, you know, when I knew that there was a possibility, even though we
Yeah.
taught abstinence, we encouraged it.
Yeah.
I'm a realist,
Mhm.
so I
Yeah.
really wanted to talk to her about also what she wants
Okay.
and for her body and how she should feel and those types of things.
Okay.
Yes, and there are also books. So there are
Yeah,
books
I might
that
have to
different.
get me a book,
and
girl.
I can share you some links. But like even with Ellie when
Beyonce.
she was 6
So
or
be
7, there were
real.
certain books about like
Okay.
you getting your period. And
Yes.
then the books
My
evolve.
mom gave me books.
And Kate
Yeah,
has
it's like,
books,
I know
so, yeah.
exactly what to
Mhm.
say about period. I know exactly what to say about body, but
Sex
around
is a
this
little
sex thing,
tough,
it's
yeah.
a little.
It's
It's a
I
little
tied
harder.
him in.
Yeah.
I tied him in because her body was shifting, so it was like a great time
Okay.
to explain that
Right.
process,
Mhm.
and then of course
Right.
questions came.
Okay.
So,
Right.
but yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, that the top how I tied it in was I talked a lot about relationships and love.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
no,
I
we
also
definitely
explained
talk
how
a
her
lot about that.
how her body changes
Mhm.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then it had to go, well, how does it all work?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's when I brought in love
Right.
and
Yeah.
relationships
Okay.
and,
And if
mommy
you guys
and daddy,
have
husband
tips,
and
you know
wife.
Yeah,
what?
tips.
Definitely
Yeah, give us
let
some
us
tips.
know. Put in the comments,
Yeah.
what you guys do with your kids, because we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's a right age either. Like,
I
because
don't. I
your
don't think
child.
there's
like,
a
it's
right
your-
age.
Yeah, it's based on your child.
I think
yeah.
it's based on your child. But I think those are also great conversations, like you said, Kimberly.
Mhm.
It was all about relationships
Yeah.
and understanding. Because one of the things I really made Jasmine understand was, even though I wanted her to wait till marriage, I told her, I said, Jasmine, mommy's a realist, because I didn't
Mhm.
wait for marriage, and I
Mhm.
like to put my stuff on the table,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be a hypocrite when it
Right.
comes to my children, you know.
Mhm.
And I told her the trauma
Mhm.
that happened, giving up my first time to somebody that I really did not love,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then what that meant to me and how that soul tie
Mhm.
stayed with me too long throughout my life, and
Yeah. Wow, that's
just
good.
having
Oh my
those
God,
types
that's
of
so good as far
conversations.
as like attachment.
Yeah.
Right, and just being
Yeah.
attached to the wrong, and
Mhm.
it just took me down to another spiral of having not the best boyfriend after
Yeah.
that,
Right.
and
You
so
know,
those kind of conversations.
That's really good, Kimberly, that you had that with her, because I'm sure it made her think about that when, her time came and somebody approached her with that, like,
Right.
wow, mommy said there was a soul tie
Yeah.
and what that did as far as trauma.
Right.
And I think so many times, many people feel like empty in that space, like,
Yeah.
many women and men, like, what do I do?
Right.
Is it
Is this
is it
okay?
a sin?
Yeah.
Am I gonna go to hell? I mean,
Yeah.
all these different
Yeah.
things. So I think that's really
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
Yeah.
how you approach that. Were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say how it trickles down into the mental health as well.
Yeah.
right?
It does. It
And
does.
so when we start to, when we experience those things in relationships,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't realize the impact that it may have, and we don't recognize those red flags all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
That's so true. Especially
just-
like that. I mean, it just really triggered a thought when you said that, just about attachment. Just how common it is for us to be so
Very much
attached
so.
to these negative, energies and negative behaviors, because we
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
know any better.
What's something you guys wish you knew in this particular scenario when
I
it comes to
wish-
sex,
Yeah.
relationships, love?
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wish I knew that it was okay for me to say, I don't like that. That doesn't feel
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
don't like that, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
This is what I want,
Right.
and not
Yeah.
feel ashamed to say
Right.
this is what I want,
Yeah.
because I was taught, again, not
so pleasing.
to be so pleasing, and to say, and they did their best as well, traditional and things like that, is that my mom did tell me, you deserve to have an orgasm. I didn't know what the heck the orgasm was, but my mom is, she's a hippie, so her like orgasm, and she's like, that's when you're pleased as well, and he's pleased. But then it left it at that.
Yeah.
I didn't know what an orgasm was, so don't give me that, and don't give me no tools to work with. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I got these bits and pieces, but yeah, that I could say, I don't like that. I really don't enjoy that, but I do enjoy this.
Right.
But then if I didn't like it, there's a possibility he could leave me. He may reject me. He may break up with me. And so that is a issue, right, that we deal with
Yeah.
as women, rejection.
Yeah.
yeah. Dion, what did you wish you knew?
Well, I mean, this one isn't as fun, of course, but the financial literacy, I definitely wish I knew,
Yeah.
like just understanding, better how to manage my money and not being such a spender, just in the beginning. I saw a lot of spending and balling, and my dad was just like always spoiling us, as kids, and he did what he thought was best as far as like just making us just be happy, and but he was just always a baller. He just always had cash.
We shot caller.
We just remember him having cash, and it was great because he always made sure he provided. I think that men really want to make sure that they are the provider. And he did absolutely that. But on the flip side, I do wish that I learned and saw more of the saving and the budgeting and investing and just, understanding more of that. I got more of that literacy once I got into college and I became a banker, and been in the mortgage and banking industry ever since. Got my degree and all that. But, just dealing with relationships, I do wish I knew deal breakers, that it's okay to establish your deal breakers up front and boundaries, knowing that boundaries is healthy. Just because I don't want to do something does not mean that it's the end of the world.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, this is okay for me to establish these boundaries for myself. And, that's okay.
Yeah.
And we can have those, conversations about being able to establish that.
Yeah. Like that. What about you, Kimberly?
Love, sex, and relationships. I wish that I knew that it was okay. Back to what Kimberly was saying. It was okay to be okay with how I was feeling internally. Be okay with my intuition and instincts instead of trying to please. And then around sex, I really wish that I knew that it wasn't like, when I thought about sex, I always thought about making sure that I was perfect and didn't like sin.
Very good.
And so whenever I did, I was traumatized. Like I was
like God wronged.
Yeah,
like you were
I
going
did
to
him
hell.
so wrong.
You felt like you was going to hell.
Right. And so so I just wish that, and I'm not discounting anything in the Bible or anything, but I just wish that that wasn't my only association to it, because that stuck with me for a long time. That I wasn't really able to. I couldn't get past it for a long time.
Wow.
And so I wish I knew that.
Yeah. For me, I think I want to take a step back just a little bit, because I think if I knew how to love myself and
that's
how
good,
I
Kenya.
wanted to be loved,
that's good. That's good.
I think all that other stuff.
That's very powerful.
So I think it started with me, like, and I'm still on this journey of trying to learn how to love myself and accept myself.
Right.
And so
I think that's a life journey, isn't it?
It is.
Because I think as you grow and become older,
and
like
you learn more.
You learn more.
But then when you understand what love is, like I had to go on my love
Kimberly.
journey, right?
Yes.
And so understanding that everybody that says they love you aren't necessarily representing what love
Come on
really
now,
is.
Kimberly. Yes.
And so we have a different face for love that is ugly sometimes, and so then we detach ourselves from it. I don't want to be in love, or I don't want love, because all of these people who said they love you have hurt you.
Come on
right
now.
But that's not love is a beautiful thing. Love is welcoming and opening and healing and all of that.
Lust.
Love, lust, and then also abuse, because and we're going to talk about that in a minute. People use certain things to manipulate and abuse folks, and then if they don't understand love, then that is just a cycle that will continue. So
Whoa, that was powerful.
And too, Kimberly, you're right, because I think too, and not to bash men, but I think we need to teach our boys about gender roles. That there are certain things that we need to really change society about how we see gender roles, particularly with our boys and our men, that it is okay to have emotions. It's okay to take some of that domestic,
be vulnerable,
take some of that domestic, what we call domestic, and be a true partner in it, and vice versa, and understanding that that's true love when you can share your gift with someone as partnership. And it doesn't matter if I'm cutting the grass and he's vacuuming because he has an allergy and he can break out in the house because he's out here cutting grass.
It's just like doing what needs to be done.
It's a partnership, right? And I think we outside of pumping gas now, I do.
Well, we know,
Kimberly.
I'm still about that pumping gas
We gonna start
situation.
timing it. When is Kimberly gonna say?
I'm still about that pumping gas, man. I'm still. Unless he in a boot
a
or
man
in a
thing.
wheelchair, no, you gonna get out and pump that gas.
Adjusting, basically.
Yeah,
so we
right,
talk
right.
love, adjusting in conversations.
Yeah.
Kenya being our communications guru.
Right.
Yes.
I would love to hear what you say in relation to love and communication, as far as adjusting, as far as communicating things,
Disagreements.
Yeah, like everything around
Differences.
Well, not everything, but it's just like a synopsis or summary.
Well, so I'll just be the first to say I don't get this right all the time.
Right.
Right.
So
It's a journey.
It's hard because it means that you've got to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability is, well, I'll speak for myself, was a very difficult thing for me to release because I wasn't taught to be vulnerable. And so I think honestly, if you just have an open conversation of where you are
Right.
and what your goals are, and
Yeah.
if they align, then setting a plan on how to reach them
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
One thing I had posted a couple of days ago was about feminine energy versus masculine energy.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
anybody see that?
I did.
We
Yeah.
had a big
Discussion about that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I definitely, can see that, because I think sometimes, obviously, it's just about creating that balance.
Yeah.
But, if you're on one end of the spectrum than the other, then it can kind of make things a little more challenging.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're afraid to say things because we think that'll be the detriment of the relationship.
Yeah.
And then we'll lose out on this love. Like there isn't another love out there.
Yeah.
And I get it when we get fixated on a person and we feel like they're a good match. But until we really have those conversations, we don't
really know.
And I
Right.
think those conversations too is dealing with those red flags and just
Yeah.
like really tackling those red flags, which we know, Dion, we've had this conversation about understanding what
To look for,
what
and
to
what
look
to know,
for,
because
how
we won't
important that is
know.
to talk
Yeah.
about. This is a red flag for me.
Yeah.
Let's
So we've
clear
been
this
talking
up.
about red flags for a minute, right?
Yes.
Like last
We
year,
have
we
been.
had
Oh
a
my
show.
God.
Okay, did y'all see all the
All
posts
the
through
posts
social media
through
lately
social
with the
media?
red flags?
right?
And it's
Everywhere.
so funny that it's like this movement now.
Yes.
Where
But you know what I thought was really healthy and good about that is, like, the kids were actually a part of it on
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yes.
Because that's where all the kids are. But they saw all the red flags too. So even though it was like this whole movement, they got a chance to
Yeah.
see like some
Yeah.
of the awareness about that.
Yeah.
Well, the red flags, to me, is a definitely trigger dealing with your mental health, because if you don't deal with those red flags, that can mess you. That can
Yeah.
mess you up mentally.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it can really
Yeah.
imprison you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the power is in knowing
Yeah.
and being aware. You
Yeah.
know, so you know how to approach the situation and you know how to deal
Right.
with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it's still there, and you know that it's something that we have to work on. It's an area that we need to communicate more
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
But it's still that you're aware. How many times is it that we're in a relationship or in a friendship? We're in a relationship with a friend, and it's still also a toxic
You're right. I
friendship
was just
That's
having
because
this
right.
conversation today.
we're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really paying attention to the red flags.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we accept it because it's a friendship.
Because it's
Oh,
a
that's
friendship.
good, Kenya. That's good.
It's not romantic.
That's good.
So, and we're conditioned to believe that abuse only happens in
In a
romantic
romantic
relationships.
That's
relationships.
really
Yeah,
good.
that's not the case.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And then, as we let these things fester and manifest in our bodies, now they start to pop up in different ways.
Yeah.
And we're wondering why we're getting sick.
Yeah.
Our blood pressure is
Yeah.
high. Why we're
Right.
coming up with cancer.
Why we're
Yeah.
depressed.
Why we're
Depressed, why we're
Why
sad.
we're eating, why we're not
Yes.
eating, why we can't
Yeah.
sleep, and
Yep.
having I've only had one bad friendship in my whole life. I'm so fortunate, like just one. That's all I've
that
ever
is
had.
good.
That's
That is
I've had
good.
only one,
Yeah.
and it is one that I can proudly say I will not go back to, and I'm glad that it ended.
Do you think that you cut it off right away, or did you?
I cut it off when it
Deal with
needed.
it
No,
for, like,
no.
years.
I cut it off when it needed to be cut off.
When you realized it.
When I
needed to be
realized
done.
it, when boundaries were definitely overstepped, and it became more work of just keeping the dialogue going than keeping the friendship going.
Yeah.
And when you have somebody that you see their number
and you
Yeah.
And then you like
drains your energy just to see
here
that
we
number.
go.
Yeah.
You know, here we
Like,
go.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I'm not getting nothing out of it in the bedroom, but you know, you just like that. There's no benefits in this thing right here.
What I thought you
Like,
was talking about.
I am talking about friendship. I am talking about
We was
friendship.
about platonic
I
friends.
thought we were talking about like
Friends
girls.
We are talking about
She's talking about
girlfriends.
friends with benefits.
No, I'm talking about friendships. But I'm like, you
That
know,
red sweater.
it's a. We talk ourselves into like keeping the guy because like, oh yeah, he's good in bed, so I'll stick with him. But when you got a bad
Never.
friend and you ain't getting nothing out of it, you're
Yeah.
like,
Oh, that's what
this
you
off.
saying.
No benefits.
There's no
Oh,
benefits. Like,
gotcha.
no.
You gotta at least get something out
you got to
of it.
get something out of
if,
it.
if you don't deal with it, right?
I thought-
put
if you
up
don't deal
it,
with
it,
you
like,
gotta
did
get
There has to
something
be
out
some
of it.
pleasure in it.
Like, did I fall
right?
asleep for a second? Like, I thought we were talking about.
No, we talk.
She has a whole nother
That
story
is
she gotta
funny.
tell.
That was like a flash
I know,
moment.
right?
Yeah, but I think the mental, that's and I will say that was mentally straining on me. Like I was
What?
just
Oh yeah.
that toxic friendship.
friendship.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
That was like mentally.
I'm sure.
It was a
It
mental
caused stress.
strain.
It caused
Oh
stress.
my God,
just
I was so tired.
I remember one of your-
especially if you feel like it's someone you really care about.
Really care about.
and
Oh,
it's someone
yeah.
also that you have a lot of history
Absolutely.
with.
But
Yeah.
in different situations of toxicity, like I remember one of your posts about toxic jobs
Yeah.
and how people chimed in there. And
Yeah.
so any sort of situation where
Yep.
there's toxicity
Yep.
and how that pulls on you
Mhm.
and how we have to align ourselves with our boundaries
Mhm.
daily as well
Right.
as our intuition
Right.
to go ahead and say, because I think that's a power move.
Because
to go
think
ahead and
about
say,
it.
this is not good for me.
Yep. And
Right.
if you're
so-
going to cut it off or
Right.
not,
Right.
or remove yourself from the situation or not. Because
Yeah.
think about it. If you're making 6 figures
Right.
or
It's a hard
this is your
decision.
livelihood,
Right.
Yeah, it's
that's
tough.
a hard decision.
It absolutely is.
I was in a job where I would come home with hives.
Yeah.
And I would
That's
get hives
traumatic.
thinking about
That's
going
to work.
traumatic.
So you might be making all this money, right? But you come home with hives,
worth it.
different things. Stress can lead
Yeah.
to so many other
So
things.
many.
Yeah.
And now that all that money is paying those doctor's bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
it. That's
yeah,
it.
we have to.
Yeah. So
we
it's
have
like,
to
is
keep
it
our
really worth
priorities.
it?
Well, CK said healthy boundaries is everything, and I think that even goes back to work. I think too. My question, with Kenya being the mistress and the master of communication, how do you communicate that to a boss that is stressing you the crap out? And because here's the thing: healthy boundaries is everything. But then, how do you have healthy boundaries when you're in a position with someone that's your livelihood?
Yeah.
That's how you pay your
Yeah.
bills. That's how you send your kids to college.
Right. How do you handle
Well,
it?
I think you just have
Say-
to,
you say
before
it.
you even approach the conversation, you have to make a definitive decision on your end,
Yeah.
right? And you have to go in, because you do have people who will try to sway you and try to gaslight you and be like, oh, I didn't think you felt that way. If I made you feel that way, I'm sorry. But
Yeah.
they'll give you all of the words to make you kind of break down and say, okay, well, maybe I'm making it up.
Right.
But you have to remember how you feel,
Right.
and you have to stick true to that. And sometimes, like we just said, we have to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to really ask yourself, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
I worked a job one time and the manager just thought that he was just gonna come in and yell at me. And it was like, how people come into a situation yelling, like he didn't know if I did something wrong or anybody. He just comes into the situation yelling and cursing. I was like, no, sir, I've always been that way. I was like, you will not talk to me
That
like
way.
that.
Yeah.
And he was like, you da-da-da-da. I was like, no, sir, I am not your child. And I mean, that's my
Yeah.
personality,
Yeah.
though. And people were like looking at us like, oh, they're about to fight.
Yeah.
That look.
Yeah.
They know we're
Yeah.
about to fight. But I'm
Right.
saying that look,
What
like
you're
where they
saying,
gather
you
around.
would just stop it right
Right
then.
then, that level
Yeah.
of disrespect where you feel like you can come in
Yeah.
and
Because it
yell
lets
at
them
me,
know.
cursing.
Yeah. So
No.
you just address it right
Uh-uh.
Well,
then.
you know,
And
yeah.
then, but he came back later and apologized. He
Okay.
was like, Kimberly, let's go talk. Can we
Yeah.
go talk for a moment after the shift?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, because I'm
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
you
right,
still,
right.
I'm like,
yeah,
right,
let's
'cause
talk.
I'm in my 20s
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
so I'm not
Yeah,
as
ain't got
mature.
nothing to
You
do
right,
with it.
Like, I'm
right.
like,
We-
sure.
you
So
right. We
he
do
was
need to
like,
talk.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I should not have,
Yeah.
disrespected you in that way. And he was like, I really like that you said something though.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you.
Yeah.
So it worked
I
out.
think what I wish I would have known too, going back to being in business, and Kimberly, I know you can talk because you collaborate with so many people, is handling conflict in a more polished way, because I think that's one thing I wish I would have known how to handle things, and you still have to be professional. And there was times I just went off,
right,
like, and slammed the door and be like, "Fire it, go right ahead," or in a relationship, like, "Fire it," you know.
But you know what? That actually goes to the angry black woman too,
right?
Like, oh, she got a lot of attitude.
Well, you know, this is what my friend.
Blah, blah.
This is what my friend told me one time. She said, you don't realize that you're white and you can get away with that. Right. If I'd have done that and went into Mr. Martin's office and went off like that, she said, I'd have been fired immediately. And that is one of the things that I am, and we've talked about this about my skin tone, is that I am not conscious of the fact that that my sisters can't do that. I have that privilege to go into his office. But then there's Kimberly dealing with collaborations, because I've had some expectations with people that didn't go well, and then I'm sitting back like, no, why? With the head and the so my thing is, I wish I'd have known how to handle that a little bit more diplomatically.
And I think that goes back to communication, though. Like,
right.
I think you have to have boundaries when you go into that particular collaboration too, like in standards and whatever.
Right.
But I think it goes back to communication. Unfortunately, a lot of times people don't want to communicate in that particular situation because it might be tough. So they just get out of it. And that is why I think a lot of times people say collaboration doesn't work, because somebody doesn't actually communicate what they feel. So if you're not doing your portion, then just communicate to the person, like, hey, you're not doing your portion, and we need to talk about that.
I think timing.
Timing is important.
Yeah, one thing I learned too is just also, we talk. I know that I share a lot with you guys about meditation and just kind of being in control of your emotions, because a lot of that I think comes from our emotion of being angry or being disappointed or being frustrated. Yeah. So being in control of your emotions will also help you better communicate. But one thing I learned in the workplace setting is always to document these facts. Because documentation and having the facts of what is exactly occurring and timelines and things like that is also helpful.
Yeah, that's a standard for me. Like, if you know that you don't want to have an emotional response, that's a standard that you set for yourself. And so in that situation, you step away from it until you can overcome those emotions. Then you come back to it and approach that person, and maybe you set a meeting or whatever it is that you need to do in order. But that's also back to what you were talking about with meditation. That's a mental health check for yourself.
To be in control.
Well, you're manifesting that positive energy, which I know that you're really big into manifesting, as we know.
Yes, girl. I'm so intentional about manifestation.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And we've got results too.
Y'all got results. Y'all witnesses.
Hello, we
are witnesses.
Witnesses of the manifestation. Right.
And I know this is going to be an odd shift, but one of the things I was just thinking about, her name is Terry Spicer. She was just on Ricky Smiley the other day, and she has a nonprofit that really speaks. So I'm just thinking about health, right? Really speaks about men and women making sure we check. What is it? Check your lift your something. Check your pearls. It's like this cute little saying that she has. And this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so I want to stop and take a moment and really highlight that, as we're talking about mental health and all of that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And check your breast. Check your, whether you're a man or woman, and I know that sounds odd for men, but just try to be aware of what's going on. And you know that they said that a lot of times it's the partner, the husband that finds the love, or the partner that finds the love. And so if you want to make a fun monthly, you can
have your partner
do it for you. I mean, whatever floats your boat.
But just get it done.
Well, I know for myself, I was 18 years old and I was in the shower, and I was like, because I don't know, I had maybe seen a infographic or something about how to check yourself. So I was just checking myself, and I found a lump.
Wow.
And so that started this journey of, biopsies and testing and early mammograms, and I had 3 subsequent lumps after that, and then ended up, advocating for myself because I was so young. Doctors, they were cancerous but not cancer, and so I was okay, thankfully, but it kept happening, and I was like, why is this happening? Well, after a bunch of tests and going from doctor to doctor, I was able to find a doctor that realized that I had overproductive tissue glands.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so from there, I had a breast reduction, and I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? But
because it's like you knew how to treat it, or you knew how to prevent it.
Or I knew how to keep pushing. I think a lot of times, especially when we don't have family history of something, or we're too young to experience something, that we get discounted a lot. Yeah. And we get told that you're fine.
Right.
But we have to know our bodies. Yeah. And we have to understand what's happening.
And to be our own advocate too.
Yeah.
And particularly people in the Black community, people of color, we have to be our own advocate, and education is critical. But just like you saying, Kenya, just do our children even know family history?
Right. It's so important. One of the things you said.
Yeah. So we've had colon cancer in our family. And so now the kids have to be checked 10 years prior to the diagnosis dates.
Yeah.
Because now they're at high risk.
Yeah.
Right. And so as a parent, I have to make sure to communicate that.
Yeah. And that again goes to the communication behind it, like being comfortable enough to have these conversations, because I don't know about you guys, but a lot of my family, people aren't comfortable about just talking about going to the doctor. They don't trust doctors, they don't talk about family history. We don't talk about that, but that happened to such and such, but we won't talk about it.
I think what I wish I'd have known is to teach Jasmine and Keto more about their family history. They know about their history, but not their health history. And there have been times I've gone to the doctor, and then I've had to call my parents and say, is such and such is in our family? Do you know anybody else is in our family? Like, those are the kind of conversations that I wish I'd have known to have those conversations with Keto and Jasmine earlier in their years, because it triggered when Jazz called me one time as an adult woman and said, Mom, do we have this in our family? And I thought, well, dog, I thought I did a good job, but obviously I have not had that conversation with her. Yeah. I've talked about like our origins and our history, and, proud of being, having this interblended family. But she doesn't know that this was, that her great grandmother had this, or high blood pressure runs in the family. Like, I didn't teach them that
it's just
in
still
detail.
About early detection.
And I just, it just really was a wake-up call for me as my children are getting older now, and they're really more in tune with their health. And so I'm like, okay, we need to have a talk about family health history.
There's so many things that we leave on the table that we could be sitting around the table and talking about. Wealth is one of them as well. Financial literacy is one of those that, especially in the African American community, it just doesn't get talked about.
Like, and that's a family history too, Kimberly, isn't it not? For people to know
legacy, whatever it is, health, wealth. It's so important. Your sister earlier said that she wished that she knew about investments. And just think about that from a young age. As soon as you start working, about investments. If your parents haven't done anything, then you can start. As soon as you start working, you can start investing in your future. And there's so many ways to do it now that as soon as somebody is working a job, they can begin. You could take your Christmas money. I have Sophie take her Christmas money and put it to the side in savings, and we're looking at things that she can invest in. I talked to her when Roblox and all these GameStop and all these different things happen. We sat down and we talked about that stuff. Like, what are we going to invest in? What are we going to look at?
Same with me. I definitely, with mentoring young kids and talking to kids as far as, financial literacy and stuff like that. Same thing with Nina, just getting her exposed to entrepreneurship. And there's even, financial literacy games and stuff that you can play to try to make it a little more fun, because, kids don't really want to talk about that. and make it more interesting.
Make it fun. But
yeah,
books,
make it fun.
like when Sophie, as soon as she could read, I had her reading books on finance.
Yeah.
As long, if she don't have to read Duck Diaries or whatever them books are.
Right.
But
Nancy,
just
wait, I'm going to tell my age. I was going to say Nancy Drew, but that's telling my age.
But all of those books, like I had her, I let her read that stuff too, of course, but I had her read a little bit, a paragraph on finance, and then I had her repeat it back to me. What did you understand?
And even though at the time, of course, kids, they're totally against it. At the time, like, of course, Nina is always like,
they're against everything.
Mommy, really? Here she go with his life coaching stuff.
But it sticks. It sticks, Dion.
It sticks
because
after a while, she'll either come be like, "Mommy, I got $289. Girl, really? $289? How? And because I've been saving and blah blah blah. So it sticks.
It was a proud moment for me when my son told me they had money to put down on their house and they didn't have to ask me for a dime.
That's
And one of the things is that we used to teach them how to set goals for the year. But here's the kicker. I didn't teach my kids about buying stock options for companies when they go work for them. Okay. So now I'm having that conversation with them, a little bit behind on the curve.
Okay.
Because,
but
it's one of those conversations I'm having now that my kids are now in the workforce. They're in the corporate America. I'm like, hey, make sure you look at stock options. And, we haven't gone public yet. It doesn't matter. Find out from human resources if they have stock options. If they offer it, if they go ahead, invest in it now, because when it goes live, you will get money and find out what those dividends may look like.
One of the things I like to share with families, because people have so much regret around finances that they can't move forward. Like, so guilty and all of that stuff. And so one of the things I say, kind of back to what we were just telling you, it's okay. They can, you might be behind the curve,
right?
But as long as you're alive, you still can make great
right.
choices. And so what I would say, anybody that feels like, oh, I wish I had started earlier, I wish I knew, back to what we're saying is the theme of the show, now. And so at least a little bit from us talking about this. So, and then begin to plan with a financial vision in mind. Begin to find out. So many people do not pull their credit report.
Yes, right.
They don't know where they sit financially. It's so many different things. They don't know how to read a credit card statement, but they have credit cards.
That's
all
really
of these,
good,
all these
Kimberly.
different financing.
That's really good.
So many things. The percentages on some of the things they're paying. So many things. And they don't know that you can actually use credit to your advantage. You can use debt to your advantage. But it's so many times, okay, so I have a book called The Debt Detox, right? So I don't believe in having unnecessary debt. But I also teach that there's a smart way to use your debt and manage your debt. So not all debt is bad, but we do want to cleanse ourselves of the toxic, back to toxicity, financial habits that hold us back. So I wish, I'm sure so many people watching,
wish
and maybe
they'd have
even
known
some
that.
of us wish some of the, that we had known a little bit more.
And I think our women, we need to definitely teach our girls, and I don't want to exclude the boys, but also is to have your own money and to have resources and, because we see it so much, dealing with domestic violence and things of that nature, like they don't have the funds.
When they get out of the finally get themselves free from those situations.
And
it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I was just going to add to that you don't have to have a lot. I think that people think that it's such an overwhelming thing.
That's right.
I just wanted to add that you can start with the smallest bit of money.
Right.
You can start with $5, $10, $15. It does not take a lot to start.
Absolutely.
Insurances, wills, things like that do not cost a lot. Like you can start with the smallest bit of money. It just you just have to start.
Right.
That's it.
Like that saying, what's the best way to eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
And so basically, figuratively, finances sometimes feel like a big old elephant. And so if we just take one bite at a time and you make a choice, like you said, maybe $5 a week you put aside, then you are on the path to doing something better for your financial situation. Were you about to say something?
No, just to chime in on the domestic violence part, that people can use that as leverage to manipulate
the money. Absolutely.
So.
Because
the different types of So you guys know, well, you may not. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I have purple nails. I don't know if anybody can see it.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I got purple nails to support. I'm an advocate for domestic violence awareness. I have my nonprofit Beauty 180. We've been doing stuff with nonprofit organizations, working in partnership, and we're looking to, continue to build out our programs. Yeah. But that was the reason why I started that. And for those who have watched the show before have heard me say that. So it's really dear and near to my heart. And we were all talking about the various types of abuse that a lot of people don't really think about, like the emotional
and the
abuse, financial abuse.
Financial is a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah. When people leave, finally, they a lot of times stay in those situations because they don't have any money.
Yeah.
Just
and
like, I don't know if you
they
guys
don't have the resources.
the TV series Made on Netflix, but that series was so good. Like it touched on so many.
Well, the emotional and
levels
the levels
abuse,
intimidation, and then a lot of people don't realize that
the verbal,
and that shelters see that as DV, but the courts don't.
Well, she didn't even see it as that.
Right.
Remember when she first went to the shelters? I'm not abused.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard women say that. That's like such an aha moment or epiphany when it's like, oh wow, this is
He's
wrong.
never hit me.
Well, because we have seen in our families just yelling and just different things
Right.
like that, and you don't
normalize.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems so normal,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it does strip at you.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Made. Been studying and different things like that, so I'll get caught up after, but I've
really
heard
good.
great things.
Yeah.
But I wonder why, even at this stage of the game where we are empowered in so many different spaces and we're so socially aware and all of these different things, why do we still turn a blind eye to things like domestic violence, where we say, oh, it's not our business. And I think about that recent case where the young lady on the train, everybody was just watching while she was getting raped by this homeless man, and nobody did anything.
Sad.
And so when is it? So I know a lot of times people are afraid that if they get in, they may get hurt or what have you, but just standing by in those situations.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah,
I'd have to risk the
I think it comes down to like a person of integrity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think integrity just kicks in and says, you know what, I don't care what the repercussions are, what the consequences are of me standing. It's just like one of those things where you just react and you just do what you know is right.
Yep.
Because what I thought, just of my own thoughts of the situation, is that we're in this society now of mind your business, and it's not my business, so I'm not getting involved. That people don't speak out, or they don't address, certain situations. Even, when we talk about marriages or families or with kids,
that's
I think
that's not my issue.
It's not my issue.
Yeah,
even if it was a situation with kids, you see two kids fighting or being abused in some kind of way. Would people get involved because they're like, oh well, I don't want to have any issues with their parents, so.
Well, being involved in inflicting more harm are two different things, right? I think it's hard to just sit and just watch someone get raped, watch someone get beat up on, right? I think once there's a bodily injury, visible bodily injury that we can see that's happening, I don't know.
But the trick of DV, I think the sniper hole of DV is that it can come off in such an emotional way, because domestic violence for kids is going to be traumatic first. It's going to be emotional. It's not, and there are cases where kids are abused, and that's child neglect. But when you're dealing with domestic violence, those wounds for children are emotional and mental. They are those two components. So when you see a child acting out, they're not being bad. And if you years ago, a lot of people may not know this, But when my children were, before I had children and my children were little, I taught school. I was a school teacher. And I worked with behavior modification. I had a behavior modification class, and we worked with children with trauma. And many times those kids could not go into a really regular school setting, class setting, because they had trauma in their lives.
Yeah.
But when you go to their houses and we had to do home visits, it made sense why he was doing this in class. It made sense why I had a female student who was 5 years old that was hypersexual.
Right.
Because I went into her home and I saw she had six sisters.
Yeah.
And this child was 5-6 years old. And she was seeing her sisters have sex in the living room.
Right.
Her mom was running in and out of her home. So this child was hypersexual
and most
at
of
a
the
young
time it's
age.
always linked to childhood.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that is also domestic violence was all in that.
Yeah.
And you know, men are also victims of domestic
Absolutely.
violence, and a lot of times people laugh that off. You
Yes.
know, like she can't beat him, so you know, is that really? Well, yes, that is. It still is domestic violence. So there's women and men. There's men who in the homosexual community who are abused by their lovers or partners. I don't know,
transgender.
the correct
There's
word,
a lot. Yeah.
And so there are men who are also victims of domestic violence, but we don't hear about that as
emasculated.
much.
They could be emasculated.
Yeah, so you're just kind of addressing some of the red flags.
Well, and here are some of the red flags: calling you names, insulting you or putting you down, preventing you from going to work or school, stopping you from seeing family members or friends, trying to control how you spend money, where you spend that money, where you go, what you wear, acting jealous or possessive, or constantly accusing you of being unfaithful. And then threatens you with DV tactics, domestic violence tactics, which are hitting, kicking, shoving, slapping, choking, or just hurting you, your children, or your pets, and then forcing you to have sex or engage in sexual acts against your will.
Yeah. And one of the things I know you were talking about, and that was such a good list. Thank you for sharing that, because maybe somebody does hear this and say, wow, I never thought about
because
that.
I'm a man and I'm told to
I never
suck
felt
it up.
Empowered.
And a man can be raped as well.
Absolutely.
But Dion and Kimberly, I know we were you guys were talking about some terms, and you guys seem to know these terms a little better than, than myself. So I would love to.
You know, once you start to, have more conversations amongst us, we start to realize that some of these things are a lot more common.
Oh yeah, that for
than we
sure.
know. And it really also goes to identifying, the red flags and being able to know what to call it. So some of those terms were gaslighting, which is like you were saying, Kenya, earlier about, where the individual just kind of makes you feel as though the things that you're saying are not true. How you feel, and what the facts are about what was said or what was done, but yet that individual make you feel as though that didn't happen, and then and I don't know if this has ever happened to anyone that's watching, but you also start to feel as though now you're starting to question yourself. You're starting to question, well, am I crazy? Did that happen? When you know exactly what happened.
That's one thing I wish I would have known, that in my previous marriage, that for the first time, which is still hard for me to even utter, because I am in intense therapy, which I've shared.
So that's good, girl.
Right, and I'm in EMDR. So look it up. I'm in really intense therapy right now. But one of the things I realized that I wish I'd have known that I was being gaslighted.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that was. And now that I'm going through therapy and I'm realizing that I was being gaslighted and made to feel like my feelings and my thoughts were absolutely ludicrous, stupid, dumb, those types of phrases that were used. And it's one of those things, I feel like I'm a strong woman, and just understanding that intimidation is a major key of manipulation, which is a major function of abuse.
Absolutely.
And we have to change how we need to change the the framework of domestic violence and what that looks like. The framework of domestic violence needs to be reframed because they bite. What she say in that movie? They bark before they bite. They bark before they bite. And when you have somebody that's intimidating you, they use it in manipulation. And that intimidation of threatening to leave and not like getting a hotel and not coming back for 24 hours to incite fear or anxiousness mental manipulation. That is key. And then stonewalling someone.
Yeah, that's the other term, was the stonewalling. Yeah. Just giving you the silent treatment.
Yeah.
You know, intentionally
walking past you like you don't exist. And you're asking
avoiding
them and
the communication.
Yeah, goes back to red flags.
Those red flags.
And just understanding what is happening.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to have, and I love working with young girls. I love seeing organizations that really work with young people, not just girls, but to teach them about body positivity, about empowerment, and about the beauty inside of them and outside of them, because empowered girls become empowered women. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes people are surprised by the fact that they ended up in those situations, because they do feel like they're strong women and stuff. So nothing is 100%.
Right.
But we can do the work as much as possible to try to educate and empower and teach our young children so that they don't end up in those situations. And that's really, all that we can do, and continue to try to find resources and be a resource. There are a bunch of local organizations, as well as, I'm sure, whatever area you're in across the globe, that really truly support this cause, support women and families who men who have gone through this. And so some local is my organization, Stand Up Speak Out. I've partnered with them.
Perfectly Flawed.
Interact. That's Dion's, for those who don't know. I think everybody probably knows. But so many others. It's one Smart something, but I can't remember. But we can give you a bunch of resources. Interact. We were talking.
Interact is
about
one.
Interact. That was one of the first ones that I supported, and was donating clothes and money and different things too. So in your area, reach out, and do not be quiet. Do not remain quiet. If you need to call somebody to try to get you out of that situation, please reach out.
Yes.
Do not stay quiet.
That's right.
One of the things that in conjunction with it, we were talking about children of abuse. I remember when I started doing Beauty 180 and I would do the teas, I remember a gentleman coming up to me and saying, when are you going to have a man as a speaker or on the panel? Because he said, I am a domestic violence victim.
That's
because
right.
my mother was abused. And he said, so I feel like I am a domestic violence survivor because of that. And so I have something I would like to say.
And he is a victim
absolutely.
of domestic violence.
And I was like, you know what, that's such confirmation, because he was one of those that every year, and I might have told this story on the show before, but every year he would always donate. He would always put my flyers out, tell people they need to go, and they would really support me. And then so one year, maybe the third year, he was like, so when is a man gonna be on the panel? And I said, you know what, I have been thinking about that. And he told me his story. And so it was absolutely amazing. And so, because what if there's some child who is experiencing trauma and then that leads to suicide, or what other
which we've seen in Chapel Hill, already had 4 or 5 suicides
recently, with all these these different cases that have been happening all over social media. The young girl that was the mother of the 2 that just recently killed herself because of depression. Then the murder, suicide murder,
Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito. And again, it goes back to when we talk about someone like Gabby. A lot of people, it is tragic as it is. We've got young girls who are posting this perfect picture perfect life on Instagram and TikTok and blah blah blah, when all along she's being abused. But then, can you share with us about the young men that are missing, and nothing has been covered in that. And even though we try not to make everything about race plays a role when it comes to information and lack of information.
Absolutely.
Particularly when it comes to our men of color.
Yeah, especially in our community.
Yeah.
That's true.
To not make it about race and just to say gender, right?
Right.
We also don't place importance on missing men.
Right.
Right.
Like there's this uneven balance to the attention that we give to
and the
men
media
and
coverage.
The media
Yeah.
coverage,
Yeah.
And one of the things statistically what I found was interesting is that we had 45 deaths, suicide and deaths all connected up until September for domestic violence in North Carolina from the ages, which stunned me. When I saw the 27, that kind of made sense. But when I saw 75,
Wow.
27 to 75.
75. When a quarter of the cases were with women over the age of 65, I was thrown back.
Wow.
I could not believe what I was seeing. Out of the 45 cases, 2 were men, where their significant others had killed them, and then one she killed herself, and then the rest were women over the age of. I couldn't believe that.
Wow.
To see older women still struggling with domestic violence, that was shocking to me.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think we see that as a face of
Right.
DV. Like we just
Right.
don't
Yeah.
see that as a face of DV.
Yeah.
And I know it's tough, guys. This show, the things that we're talking about, breast cancer awareness,
Essential.
like
Essential, though.
domestic violence awareness, anti-bullying awareness. It all feels so heavy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Things that are so heavy, sometimes we don't talk about.
Right.
But those are the things that we need to talk about, because the more that we talk about these things, the
Right.
more that we have them out there, the more people that we
that
can
are
help.
aware.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The
And
more
it's
people
just
that will
really
come
about
out.
awareness.
Yeah.
Like we really have to
Yeah.
be more aware.
Yeah.
And also just to help the people that don't even realize that they're doing it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because sometimes a lot of people are in the toxic behaviors because they're just not
Yeah.
aware
Yeah.
that that's
They're even
that's
doing
what
it.
they're even doing. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh wow, I didn't even realize that I was being toxic.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're getting close to our time.
Yeah, we're wrapping
Yeah,
up.
that's-
I know that you-
and that was why.
Yeah,
that was why I said that, because I know we're wrapping up in the show. It felt heavy, but
did.
I feel good about it because these are things that we needed to talk about. These are things that may not be the most fun
Right.
things to talk
But
about,
necessary.
but necessary. And so we do want you to come back next month,
Yeah.
which will be our last show
Yes.
of the year
Yeah.
for 2021.
Wow.
This has been a fun year, but
went
November
by fast.
the 27th
Yes.
is going to be our last show. We're
Yeah.
excited.
We're excited
We're
about
hopefully
that.
have just as much fun as we're going to have to. So we're about to hit some s'mores, do some s'mores in a minute. But hopefully we'll have as much fun. Got a couple of announcements.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything to say before?
No, I'm really.
No, I
I'm
think
actually really
I
quiet.
think I'm really proud of the show
Mm-hmm.
that we're able to tackle. It's not always going to be kiki kaka moments, which I think we have a great time doing that.
Yeah.
But I think we understand. And Kimberly, you and I had this conversation about talking about love, getting back to helping our community.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of our show that we're going to tackle these really tough
Yeah.
discussions, and we're going to expose those things so that
Yeah.
people can provoke thought
Yeah.
and action.
Right.
And this is the way we love.
Yeah.
Come on now. There you go.
Up on other people.
Yeah.
Woo.
Come
yeah.
on.
Any
That's a boom drop mic.
That
Okay.
was.
Drop the mic.
That
Boop.
was.
So our, already mentioned our next show, and then as well I have with Coffee and Collaborations, which this is Coffee and Collaborations Media, but we have a couple other shows, and then every now and then Al Howard, who is the host of Thank God It's Fashion Friday, he's actually redoing some things with that, so I'm excited for him to launch that. But we are doing a show together as co-hosts. This is our third under the theme or title, The Culture versus Marriage. And these shows have been
Love that.
amazing. So the first one, we have the husbands they're not necessarily like husbands of the next one, which was the wives. We just grabbed some husbands, right? And then we had the second one was the wives. The wives, they weren't playing, y'all. Yeah, they came ready. And so now we're bringing some couples, some who are bringing their spouses who were previously on the show, and then others who are a new set. And so that's going to be exciting.
Wow.
That's going to be Tuesday night. So this coming Tuesday, I believe that date is October the 26th. So Tuesday night, we're going to have that. So join us 8:00 p.m. on Coffee and Collaborations on YouTube.
Eastern time, just
Eastern Standard Time, yes. On Coffee and Collaborations on YouTube as well as Facebook. And then I just want to highlight that with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I'm excited for the nonprofit Beauty 180 and the things that we're doing. I would love for your support. Anybody that wants to volunteer. We were going to do an event with L.O.V.E this month, but we are not. Some things shifted. But I do want to highlight Beauty 180 and just, share that if you're interested in working with my organization and you want to find out more about it, you can go to Beauty 180, www.beauty180inc.org. You can donate there as well and reach out to me. I would love to tell you a little bit more about it. We want to support women and families who are transitioning, whether it's domestic violence, homelessness, coming from prison. That was a big population that we work with. And so I'm excited to continue. Oh, and also women who are coming out of divorces, who are actually coming out of marriages, women or men,
that's a big
and need assistance because of the fact that they're starting all over. And so we really would love to connect with you. So I think that's all of our announcements. Join us next time, November 27th. Make sure to follow Love and Flow TV on Facebook. We have great conversations. We have so many in there right now.
We've been having a lot of support.
Yes, men and women alike who post and share, and we have really good conversations. So I think we may have a guest sometime. One of the fellas reached out, who said that they would love to join us.
We would love that. We would love.
That's awesome.
We love the men when they come and give
because we need both
perspectives. That's
sides.
so great to have.
So look out for that.
Yeah.
You guys have a great rest of your Saturday evening. We're gonna get our
Mastermind
s'mores.
Production. We want to thank Mastermind Production.
You can say that.
Oh, so we want to thank
distracted.
the wizard, the one, the only, Mr. Ken Branson, Mastermind
thank you,
Production,
Ken.
for always making sure that I'm in place. McGee, you got 10 minutes.
All of us.
Sit down. So we want to thank Ken for always showing up and showing out.
Yes.
Keeping us on point. He is the best of the best. So
Yeah.
nothing but blessings. Making us look good. Nothing but the best and blessings for our brother. So.
We can't shout Ken out enough.
I'm telling
Mastermind
you, we love
Productions
him.
out.
We love
if
him.
we had 10,000 tongues.
10,000 times we couldn't thank you enough, Ken.
We just love him.
We just love him. Yeah.
So, but y'all got distracted by the. These are
s'mores.
Dion's, but I just want to show them.
Yeah.
So we are going to end our night out with s'mores.
And this
by
is
the
Kenya's first
fireside.
time doing
I was about to
s'mores.
say how we do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is how you
Do
Culture.
it.
So we're about to
You
invite
put the
to say
marshmallow. You
goodbye.
put the
We're about to invite
marshmallow on
Kenya.
the stick.
But
Yeah.
you all have a great rest of your Saturday
Good night.
evening.
We're gonna have s'mores, guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Good night.
Be
See
sure
you
to
later.
continue to follow us at Coffee and Collaborations everywhere.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
All right.
Let's do this, y'all.
So do we put the
Bye.